see would be to see another spring and bless the falling leaves. Thank you for this precious day, these gifts you give to me. My heart's so full of love for you. Oh, sing for every mother's love, for every childhood tear. Oh, sing for all the stars above, the peace beyond all fear.
Good morning. Good morning and welcome to Holston Valley Unitarian Universalist Church. I am the Reverend Tiffany Sapp, the minister of this church, and my pronouns are she and her. We are going to get started with some singing this morning, and Liz and Karis are going to lead us today. Our opening hymn is number 1011 in our teal hymnal, and Liz and Karis are going to explain what we're going to do with this hymn this morning.
So as you can see in your hymnal, there are two lines. One is numbered 1, the other is numbered 2. Karis and I are going to sing each line separately first, and then we're going to put them together, and you can pick if you want to sing the line 1, you can sing with me. If you want to sing line 2, you can sing with Karis.
What a beautiful way to start our time together today. Please remember, this doesn't end in a meaningful way. There's no tidy conclusion waiting for you on the other side. Think of it more like a circle. We know that can be confusing. When we talk about circles, we're not saying you're going to see a bright blue eagle catch a black octopus on Tuesday, and then 30 years later, see the same bright blue eagle catch the same black octopus. It's not a literal thing. But not everything real is literal. And not everything that isn't literal isn't real. Don't be angry at a story because it isn't a map. There is more than one way to share information, more than one way to navigate being lost. A circle is always breaking, never broken. Please remember that metaphors aren't always neat, linear, mathematical equations. Please remember that the answer isn't the only valuable part of the process of asking a question, and that the ending isn't the only part of the story that we can draw meaning from. Please remember to pick up after yourselves. This is our community after all. Please remember that words have power, and please remember to have fun. And please join me in a moment of quiet reflection and preparation. Thank you for being with us today as we join together in this service of remembrance. This is a time of year that holds many traditional days for acknowledging those who have passed away this year and for remembering our ancestors whose wisdom we still carry with us. All Saints' Day, All Souls' Day, Samhain, Dia de los Muertos, and Shambin are all recognized during this particular time of year. So it makes sense that in this season where leaves make their final journey from branch to the ground, that we would remember and recognize our dearly departed as well. Today, we light our chalice to honor them all.
As we kindle this flame, we honor and remember those who have passed into the mystery. Their brightness lives on in our vision. Their courage lives on in our commitments, and their love continues to bless the world through us. Good morning, I'm Tom Burns. I'm your service leader here at Holston Valley Unitarian Universalist Church. We welcome you, old friends and new, young and old, online and in person. You're an essential part of our gathering today. Whether today is your first or your 1000th Sunday with us, we are stronger because of your presence. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders. We are all growing, all learning, all loved. Just as you are welcome here. Please silence your cell phones, and please observe the rules of the perfume-free zone. We're at low risk now, meaning that masks are optional in the sanctuary for now. It's still important to remember that some people will still want to be distanced, which will be indicated by their color-coded wristbands. And it's especially important to stay home if you're sick. At this point, you've probably heard that we have a fundraiser auction coming up. This is an important part of how we build community and fulfill our budget needs for the year. Today, we're inviting Charlie, our stewardship trustee, to tell us in a little more detail about the auction.
Good morning. I'm Charlie Miller, your stewardship trustee. I'd like to provide some details about our upcoming service auction on November 19th at 6 p.m. In particular, let's take a deeper dive into the value of the auction and how to get involved. The value of the service auction is both financial and communal. Monetary proceeds of the annual auction represent, approximately 10% of our church budget. Moreover, we rely heavily on volunteers to maintain the church and its services. The community resources marshaled each year have helped fund improvements like the playground and deck, sustain services like RE and childcare, and provide volunteer hours for maintaining grounds or supporting programs. Our auction is, however, more than financial transactions. Not only is the event itself a time of great fellowship, but enjoying the items is also a further opportunity for engagement. For example, game nights, meals, treats, and service experiences are delivered throughout the year. The most immediate way for everyone to get involved is to donate an item to be auctioned. The church website, hvuuc.org, has a page under the stewardship menu titled Service Auction. On that page are details and a link to the auction site. On the auction site, you can submit your items by selecting the header, Donate Items, where there's a form to provide a description, the estimated value, and an image or picture of the item. If you have any difficulty, see the Contact Us page for help. Historically, the success of these auctions tends to scale with the number of items, so I encourage you to send in all of your ideas. It is common to share something familiar to you. For example, you'll find many items are homemade. While you are at the auction site, you can also browse the catalog to see what's currently submitted, and this may ignite inspiration as well. Any donation will help reach our collective goals. It's important to recognize we have less than 2 weeks to finish submitting items. For those who have already submitted items, thank you very much for getting us started. If you have it on your to-do list, now is the time to check that box. For anyone that needs assistance, please contact auction@hvuuc.org or give us a call. Another way to participate is to play a role in producing the auction. I would like to thank the people who have already volunteered to get us organized, and we've identified a number of opportunities to assist. Examples include greeters, auctioneer helpers, surrogate bidders, as well as those helping with childcare, setup, and cleanup. There are a host of other roles which you can learn about by emailing us, which again is auction@hvuuc.org, or see me after the service. I especially want to reach out to the members of our community who cannot be physically present. Our goal is for everyone to be included, and we have considered ways for those at home to participate. Maintaining an online component seems like a reasonable approach, but it currently only contains a few items. For a more substantive experience, we're offering surrogate bidding, where a volunteer will bid on your behalf at the in-person event. You can email or call us with the catalog items, bid ranges, and dates if you're targeting events. If anyone needs an alternative to the auction email, please call the church office to leave a message or call me directly under my number in the directory. Internet or computer access need not be a hurdle, as our team can enter items if needed. I would also like to underscore that payment by volunteer hours is intended to remove any hurdle that money might represent. There is a lot of important work accomplished in our church through volunteering, like this auction, and $20 of value is credited for each hour pledged. Thank you very much for your time and effort to make this year a hit for everyone. If you haven't experienced this in-person auction before, please talk with other members who can share their memories. It's one of the few social gatherings we normally hold during the year, and it can be a fun time. This is our first time holding it after a 2-year hiatus, and the energy is high to get back together. I know I'm excited to have a great evening together, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie, and to your team for working on making this an inclusive event. When is it?
November 19th at 6 p.m.
November 19th, 6 p.m., right here. And if your schedule won't allow or your health won't allow for you to be in person, please take advantage of the surrogate system. I'm going to have to take advantage of it this year, so I'm going to write up some very detailed instructions for that poor person. So our special music today speaks of loss and memory. Today's time of remembering can be a bittersweet service as we remember those we have lost with love and feel the pain of their absence now. The human grief experience is absolutely complex. I've found that we can hold so many feelings at the same time. So I invite you to use this time as a time of reflection and love and memory from the musical Cats.
Smile.
Thank you. Today and every day is a day of joys and sorrows for our congregation. The burden of our sorrows can be lightened when we hold them together, and the light of our joy can be amplified by sharing them with our community. If you'd like to share a joy or a sorrow in person, you can use the candle cards that are in the back. And if you'd like to share a joy or a concern from a distance, please email minister@hvuuc.org. Collectively, I know that we anticipate an election day 2 days from now. It's a time for us to express our values and exercise our place in the democratic process. This is an event that can be wrought with both hope and fear. As this pivotal time approaches, I hopefully imagine votes cast for what will build the beloved community of peace, justice, and liberty for all. Denise has shared with us this week that her brother Danny passed away on Monday. He was a devoted husband, father, grandfather, and friend who will be missed by all who knew him. Please hold Denise, Charlie, Jen, Fletcher, and Molly in your hearts today as they are in Texas with their family. Do we have any other candle cards? One of our cherished traditions is to light candles for ourselves, a loved one, or a situation where we feel could use a little light. At this time, we can do that in one of two ways. If you'd like to come down here and light your own candle, we ask that you use that empty row near the back to make a line that comes down by the window, and Tom will help you light your candle. If you want to stay in your seat, you can raise your hand for a candle. I will acknowledge each of you with the motion of my hand, and then you can sit back down or lower your hand, and I will light a candle for each of you after the people who have lined up are done. And we light our first candle for you who are not in the building, but are ever in our hearts. we light a final candle for all that remains unspoken in our hearts and minds.
Today's reading is a poem by Reverend Mark Morrison Reed, who has written extensively about Black Unitarian Universalist history and has published several meditation manuals. This is his poem, Let Me Die Laughing. We are all dying, our lives always moving toward completion. We need to learn to live with death and to understand that death is not the worst of all events. We need to fear not death, but life, empty lives, loveless lives, lives that do not build upon the gifts that each of us has been given, lives that are like living deaths, lives which we never take the time to savor or appreciate, lives in which we never pause to breathe deeply. What we need to fear is not death, but squandering the lives we have miraculously been given. So let me die laughing, savoring one of life's crazy moments. Let me die holding the hand of one I love and recalling that I tried to love and was loved in return. Let me die remembering that life has been good and that I did what I could. But today, just remind me that I am dying so that I can live, savor, and love with all my heart.
Just this week, I was talking with one of our members, Charlie Miller, about what he loves about being an atheist. He told me that for him, atheism creates an inherent necessity to focus on the present and to create as much of what you value while you have the opportunity. And I really love that. I feel like it's getting at the same thing that Mark Morrison Reed just said in his poem. But today, just remind me that I am dying so that I can live, savor, and love with all of my heart. It's true that we are all, each of us, dying. We may not need any helpful person to remind us of that, though. Life seems to offer enough reminders all on its own. Grief and loss are reminders of our mortality, and a reminder that that part of life can sometimes be a big part of life. And the older that I get, the bigger they seem to become. I guess that's just the mathematics of living. The longer we're here, the more real it can become that we just won't be here forever. How each of us comes to terms with that truth, how each of us makes meaning from that revelation varies. That's one of my favorite things about being Unitarian Universalist. Rather than telling people the answers to the big questions, we curiously explore those questions together. And there's a lot of room for differences in opinion, especially around things like death and what comes next. Some of us find meaning in claiming firmly, this is it, let's make the most of it. Some of us find hope in ideas about reincarnation and stories of little kids who remember their previous lives. Some of us make sense of death by considering an afterlife that may not be well defined, but is full of peace and absent of suffering. Some of us may even enjoy a classical universalist view of heaven where everyone gets in and everyone is loved. While I personally prefer to maintain a practical, this-world focus in line with what Mark Morrison Reed and Charlie Miller have expressed, I must admit that I do occasionally indulge in fantasies of taking fundamentalists on a tour through heaven, just showing them all the people that they said weren't going to get in, hanging out, having a party, surrounded by unconditional love. It's just, that's my fantasy. The human impulse to make meaning around our own mortality is interesting and is also shrouded in mystery. We are grasping at things that are pretty darn unknowable. The human task to find some semblance of meaning in the loss of those we love, that is far more concrete and feels way more present in the room with us today. My own death feels very abstract. I figure I will either approve of the afterlife or there will be nothing, which means I will not be bothered by it. The death and loss of people I care for, though, that disrupts my life and my peace. Sometimes the weight of the loss feels like a creature laying right here on my chest. Sometimes a pressure, sometimes a void, and its name is grief. How do we humans find shreds of meaning in the aftermath of a loss? I found it in two places: community support and remembering. The community support doesn't fill the holes left in my life by losing a loved one, but it does remind me that I'm not alone. And when there are practical needs in the wake of grief, it's a great blessing to the ones, for the ones who have been there for me, to listen or to provide practical support, meals, a little card to show that they care. This help that is often so practical often comes with a deeper meaning. And that deeper meaning is that love still exists, even when the one that we love has been lost. And the other place that I found meaning in loss is through remembering, telling the stories. I've noticed that since my dad has died, that I tell a lot more stories about him. I remember the most random things at the most random times, and I found that while it hurts a little to remember, it hurts less when I lean into it, when I tell the story, when I remember his life with gratitude. And so we have community ways of remembering, which combines both of these paths of meaning. Traditions of communal remembering and storytelling are practically ubiquitous in modern funeral rituals. And annual invitations to remember our beloved dead exist in a multitude of religious traditions, many of which happen this time of year as the leaves are also falling to the ground. Today is an invitation to remember those who have passed in this environment of community support, this place that says, we will hold your grief and we will grieve together. While we have our own personal losses, we also experience losses as a community. So I'm going to begin our time of remembering and honoring by naming some of those losses. This is John Charles. You'll get a chance to come up and see these closer. John Charles died just a few weeks ago, and several of us were at his celebration of life. A bad fall and declining health kept him from being with us once we reopened last spring, but long-term members here will remember him from before his fall. He was an artist that found so much beauty in life, from landscapes that would just draw you into bliss, to observing and taking notes on the peculiarities of human nature. John Charles taught me that an observant eye and an open mind could bring you a lot of wisdom. This is John McNeese. John died about a year ago. He was a friend or a member of this congregation, and I never got to meet him, but I know he was important to many of us here. He was known to those who loved him as a musician and a world traveler. He was someone who really made the most of his time while he was here. And as an interconnected world community, we also share some losses from the world stage this year. Sometimes you don't have to know someone personally for them to impact your lives meaningfully. People like Nichelle Nichols. Does anyone know who Nichelle Nichols is? Star Trek. Yes, she's Lieutenant Uhura on the original Star Trek series. At one point, she had seriously considered quitting the show, and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. talked her out of quitting. I mean, what do you say when he's like, no, don't quit? I mean, you say, okay, I'm not gonna quit. He told her that the world needed to see a black woman on TV as a valued part of a team of space adventurers. And he was right. When Mae Jemison went into space as the first black woman in space, she said Nichelle Nichols was the one who made it possible. And Nichelle Nichols died in July of this year. And she wasn't the only entertainer to make a difference just by being herself either. This is Leslie Jordan. Yeah, okay, some of you all know who Leslie Jordan is. This is Leslie Jordan. Leslie Jordan, who died only a few weeks ago, was a hero to many as a gay icon in entertainment. I believe he was one of the first very openly out gay entertainers. I know him from his delightfully sassy and snarky role on Will and Grace. But what I didn't know until he died was that he had become a voice of hope and support during the pandemic through social media. Leslie Jordan reminds us that we all have the power to bring hope and comfort to each other, and that it can often come in a very sassy, very authentic little package sometimes. And if we want to talk about using our power to help others, then I do need to acknowledge at least one more entertainer who has passed away this year. Angela Lansbury. I see by your smiles that some of you know who Angela Lansbury is. I grew up on Angela Lansbury. So, a lot of us know her from watching Murder, She Wrote, or we might know her as the voice of Mrs. Potts in Beauty and the Beast. What I didn't know about her until after she died was that she used her influence as an actress to help others. She was a union woman who promoted economic justice for her peers. She was known for giving bit parts to retired out-of-work actors on Murder, She Wrote so that they could keep getting work, keep earning their union points and keep getting their insurance. Beautiful solidarity, a great example about how we can use the power and influence that we have to help others. Celebrities are the easiest to notice, of course, but there are several others who passed away this year who are of importance to many of us. This is Thich Nhat Hanh, or Thich Nhat Hanh. I try my best, and his friends called him Thay. He died in January this year, and he was one of the most influential Zen masters to ever grace the planet. His work as a Vietnamese Buddhist monk has influenced a generation of Buddhists and non-Buddhists alike through his teachings about mindfulness and compassion. The picture that I showed you shows him smiling, and that makes me think about how he advocated for a spirituality that involved smiling at the world and smiling at ourselves. He was a peace activist as well, and modeled for many of us how our beliefs and practices have real world, this life applications. And this is Clyde Bellecourt. He might be a little more obscure. Does anyone know who Clyde Bellecourt is? All right, cool. We get to learn something today. He was a prominent Native American civil rights activist. He co-founded the American Indian movement, and his Ojibwe name is Niganwiwe Widun, which means thunder before the storm. What an awesome name for a civil rights activist. The work of his life and his legacy included combating violence towards Indigenous people, advocating for fair housing and education in Indigenous communities, providing legal aid for multitudes, and protesting against cultural appropriation. Our poet this morning said, "Let me die remembering that life has been good and that I did what I could." And it is my hope that Clyde, Thay, Angela, Leslie, Nichelle, John, and John knew that they did what they could, and that our world community is richer because of it. Today, I have named a few people who we mourn together as a local church community and as a broader world community, but there are many more people that we have lost individually and personally this year. This table here is a tribute to those who we have lost, and it's a place for us to entrust our grief. There are spaces to place pictures. Some are in frames. Some are just placed on the table. And some of you have already left your pictures. There are leaves, maple leaves, to write names of people that you have lost if you don't have a picture. And there's also an invitation to make a symbolic expression of your grief by dropping some salt into water. Salt and water, of course, are reminiscent of the tears that we cry in our grief. These tears can be a cleansing release, and in that spirit, we hope you can experience the healing you need in community through this symbolic act. And of course, once salt dissolves in the water, we can't see it anymore. It's still with us in some ways, and it's gone in others. Just like when we carry our loved ones in our hearts, even as we don't see them physically present in our lives anymore. We have set the table up so that more than one person can be up here at a time, with multiple places to leave mementos, write names on leaves, and drop salt into water. To avoid traffic jams, I would ask that you please wait either right here or right here until I motion you forward to come to the table. There will be extra people at the table with you because we are sharing our experience as a community, but I'm going to try to have it only be a few people at the time. Otherwise, it might start feeling a little uncomfortable. So, when you are ready, come to this table, this community of remembrance and love.
They once dwelled among us, the people of memory.
They knew us, they taught us, they heard us, they loved us.
They touch our lives time and again through their presence and their absence.
Through their sense, their songs, their old stories, and renewed sorrow.
As the earth turns and leaves fall, we reach back to renew the bonds between us.
With hearts and hands open, we hold on to love, that is stronger than death.
We reach back in gratitude and understanding without our time together, the pain and the joy.
We would never be who we are today. We would have little to pass on
without fear, with thanksgiving, and with hope for all that awaits.
We remember those who have gone before. We honor the circle of life and death, and our ways within the sacred ground.
Thank you for being with us today. We hope that you're giving some thought to how you want to be part of this community that works together. We hope you can stay for coffee hour after the service. Today at 12:45, right as coffee is wrapping up, there will be an organizational meeting for non-binary and transgender adults that are interested in forming a fellowship group for people of diverse gender experiences. If you are non-binary, gender fluid, or transgender, you're welcome to join this planning meeting. Don't forget the United Religion Initiative's potluck gratitude dinner is this Saturday. And give some thought to applying for one of the limited seats for our January 8th Principle Workshop, put on by Paula Cole Jones, one of the authors of the 8th Principle. You can learn more about the many opportunities for fellowship, justice work, and working together by visiting our website, hvuuc.org, and checking out our news and events sections, or by getting a paper copy of our newsletter, which you can find on the greeters table.
Thank you for being with us today. I hope that you'll be able to join us next week, where I'll be exploring the topic of forgiveness and unpacking some of the baggage, so much baggage that comes with that word. I'd also like to offer a gentle reminder to our pledging members that if you have forgotten to send in a pledge payment recently, it may be time to do so. We appreciate all of the ways that you support our community here, including financially. I'd like to offer you this benediction. For those we miss, for things long gone, for those who we last held in our arms, in our hands, and in our hearts, we pray. We pray for the memories to stay strong, memories of words and warmth of action and stillness. We pray for love, shared and lived, love to remain with us and with them, and for that to be enough. We pray for the courage to put our feet on the floor when we wake, to move through the day as if we had something left in our heart. Oh, love that holds us all, hold on to us while we hold on to what we have lost. Amen. Our closing hymn for the month of November is hymn number 354, We Laugh, We Cry. This hymn is an upbeat way to go out after such a sombering time of remembering, and yet it has messages for us about life and death and community that are just irresistible to me this month. Because it can be such a long song, this week we are only singing verses 1, 3, and 4. We will save verse 2 for another time. And this is also when we pass the offering plate. The contributions you make during the offering supports our community in here and helps us to serve the world out there. And if you're making a pledge payment, please mark it as such. And thank you so much for your generosity. Please rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn number 354, We Laugh, We Cry, 1st, 3rd, and 4th verses.